Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the latest Lilja and Lou podcast. And we're here near the end of May, getting ready to gather our resources, both mentally and financially, for all the Stephen King stuff that's coming out in the second half of this year. So stick around for that. We're going to be presenting our King calendar for 2013, which will list off all the highlight events that are happening. And of course, as well as that, we'll have the news. And we have a special interview with King specialist or expert writer Bev Vincent. Has done a collection of reviews of Stephen King's books starting from the year 2000 on, and the book is aptly entitled 21st Century King, and it's a very interesting take on how to review Stephen King's works since the turn of the century. So stick around for that. But first up, we have the news.
Welcome, welcome. Do not fear the door that lies before you. We will protect you. We are your guides, Hans and Lou, and we will give you the latest in Stephen King news. But before we do so, you must prove yourself worthy. You must open the door and join us in the death room.
Hello, everyone, and in this installment of news, we have a couple of late-breaking items for you. And first off is the 10 O'Clock People movie that Tom Holland has been adapting. You might remember we've mentioned him a couple of times on previous podcasts. And the news for the longest time had been that Justin Long, who you might know from Die Hard 4, I believe, and Jeepers Creepers, and if you ever watched the Microsoft and Apple PC commercials, he was also on those. Unfortunately, and I like him, so this is kind of a bittersweet news. Unfortunately, it looks like because Justin had to drop out due to a scheduling conflict. His replacement is a very bankable name, and Chris Evans, who you should know as Captain America. So, yeah, kind of a mixed bag of news. So, what do you think of that, Hans?
Yeah, well, I wasn't a big fan of Captain America movie, but
Okay.
that wasn't necessarily because of the lead actor, so it might still work. So I'm still open to this one. So I don't really see a big problem with with them changing it if that's what's necessary for the movie being done.
Right.
Next news is once again the Dark Tower movie, and as we know, it's been rejected by several studios, and there were several versions of it, and nobody really seems to know what's going on. But now it seems like a company called Media Rights Capital are willing to commit to a single movie to start with. And then seeing how that one will go, and if it goes well, they will continue doing movies. And this time it's Russell Crowe that's being mentioned as playing Roland. And I don't know if he has agreed to it, or if it's Media Rights Capital who are saying that if he commits to it, then we'll do the movie, or it's a bit unclear where his name comes into this equation.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if it will end up with. I mean, there's been so much talk about this one, so nothing happens. So
yeah, like you, I was caught off guard by the mention of Russell Crowe as playing Roland, because the last we had heard it was Javier Bardem, but we knew that he had to drop out due to the delay in the project and when they had presented it to Warner Brothers in the last iteration. But the news about Russell Crowe just seemed to come out of the blue. I don't remember that being announced, and I think, if I remember correctly from your website Facebook page, most of the people are not too happy about his choice as playing Roland either.
No, I will, as I have said all the time, I would like to see someone unknown in this role.
Right.
I don't want someone that is connected to another big movie or something. I would like someone that you can feel this is Roland. So I would like them to go for an unknown actor.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I must say, I don't believe anything about this. I think the Dark Tower movies will never be done. I don't think they will be done.
I think they will be done one way or another. But
yeah, you think so?
yes, I definitely think it will happen. But When it will happen, I think is still up in the air. I'm not sure if this latest news is going to be the one that makes or breaks it. And there's another party involved too, personal financier from, I think they just said Silicon Valley. He's willing to fund the original idea. So, that even complicates things more, because which version of the story do you believe, and which version, because if they, depending on what approach they take, it's going to change how they adapt the movies. And if you tune in for our next podcast, I did an interview with Bev Vincent about his latest Dark Tower book, the Dark Tower Companion, and he notes in that book that with an interview that he did with Ron Howard and Akiva Goldsman's adaptation that they have in mind is very interesting, and I don't want to spill the beans on it, so that's kind of a tease for them that next podcast, but it's very interesting. That's all I'll say for now. Yeah. Anyhow.
Maybe we have, and if you remember, Netflix was interested
a
while back as well. So we might end up with 3 versions of the first book filmed and then nothing more. Wouldn't that be ironic?
Yeah, sure would be. Yeah, so stay tuned, folks. This one's far from settled. The only thing is that I guess where we disagree on is that I do think at some point the Dark Tower will be filmed. In what form, I'm not sure, but I just think it's inevitable.
Yeah. Be filmed as one movie and then nothing more. I don't think they will manage to do the entire set of books.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say it, but I think that's the case.
Okay. Well, we'll have to make a bet.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on from the Dark Tower, because I'm sure we'll be talking about that again. In more movie news, just an update on Cell, which starts filming in September with John Cusack, who did a great job in 1408. And this one is going to be directed by Todd Kip Williams, which we reported on, I believe, in our previous podcast as well. And he did the Paranormal Activity 2 movie, as well as The Door in the Floor. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's not the top of my favorite King books, and it's his version of the zombie movie. So I'm sure, Hans, you're all excited about this movie. But I like John Cusack. I think they could do some good things with it.
Yeah. As to say, I'm quite excited about this one because there are zombies, there are John Cusack, and it's a short book. And often the shorter books get better as a movie. So I think this has everything going for it.
I'm just worried that by the time it gets out, that, well, even though the last couple of years it just almost seems impossible to believe that the whole zombie thing might be starting to lose its steam. Because after World War Z comes out this year, which somebody, I believe, just tweeted on the internet, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, that they were very impressed with the movie. Apparently, that's been a very troubled production, and it has bomb written all over, but somebody saw the movie and they said it was awesome. So you never know. And I don't know. We'll just have to see. Zombies, how long can they keep going?
Zombies never die,
Apparently not. So what else have we got, Hans?
Yeah, we have a new interview with Stephen King, which is pretty rare. So this is exciting. Talks about Joyland and writing in general. He mentioned that he writes 1,500 words. That's pretty impressive, doing that every morning. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I find most exciting about this interview is that it's mentioned that he has almost finished the book Mr. Mercedes. And a new book is always exciting, right?
Yep.
So we know what we have to expect after Joyland and Dr. Sleep. And Mr. Mercedes is said to be a hard-boiled detective tale. So that sounds exciting.
Yeah, the man is a machine. That's all I can say.
Yep. I mean, it's not the fact that you write 1,500 words, because that can almost anybody do. But to get something good in those words and get a story that works, that's extremely impressive, I think.
Absolutely. His work
and
ethic.
he's been doing it for long, so.
Yeah, it's just like we could all be so energetic at 65. It's unreal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in a final bit of news, another measure of the passage of time is the fact that we're getting into anniversary editions of Stephen King's previous works. And this year, 2 books 30 years ago were released. And the first one is Christine, and the second one is Pet Sematary. Both these books will be receiving the anniversary treatment, 30th anniversary. Christine will be released April 2013. Pet Sematary will be released in November 2013. And each one of these will have a special introduction and afterword written for them. For Christine, the introduction will be by Michael Marshall Smith, and the afterword will be by Cemetery Dance publisher Richard Chismar. And there will also be interior art and wraparound artwork on slipcases and that. So there are a lot of extras for that one. For Pet Cemetery, it's going to get the same treatment. The artwork hasn't been announced yet, but the introduction will be written by a British horror writer, Ramsey Campbell. And the afterword will be written by Bev Vincent of The Road to the Dark Tower and the Dark Tower Companion fame. So forward to those. And so as we get into talking about the King calendar for this year, I hope everybody's been saving their pennies, because next year and a half is going to be expensive, because also next year we'll have anniversary editions of Thinner and Skeleton Crew, and this time details are much sketchier on those. But yeah, 30th anniversary. It's kind of scary to believe that we've read those books so long ago already.
Yeah, feeling very old right now.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that is the news for this segment. So lots of good stuff still to come. So stick around, folks. We've got a great King calendar coming up for you.
This is great. What's our job? We'd like drive around, pick up stiffs or what?
It's time for reviews from the night shift.
Okay, what we're going to do now is give you a King calendar for the rest of the year, so you can plan your upcoming books and movies and TV series and everything you need to buy and save your money. And the first thing that's going to come up is Joyland, which is released on June 4th by Hard Case Crime. And I'm actually holding a copy of it in my hand right now.
Oh!
I had to say that.
Have you read it yet?
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
I have.
you're killing me.
I like it. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
And the book it's pretty thin. It's 283 pages. And a one-page author note. So it's quite a quick read. And it's being released on audio as well, and it's narrated by Michael Kelly.
Okay, but it's not being released as a
ebook. Yeah, and the reason for that is that King wants to. Well, if you have seen the hard case crime books, they are like the paperbacks from the 50s and 60s.
Right.
Crime novels, and as everybody know, back then you had to go to the store and buy the book if you wanted it. That the feeling that King is going for here. So and I posted on the Facebook site if I wanted to ask people what they thought about it. A lot of people thought that it was the right thing to do, to just release it in paperback and audio, and some people were very mad and didn't want to read it until it came out in an ebook. Personally, I really don't. It really don't matter to me. I read some.
Well, I guess not. You already got the book in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, but the fact that you can't get it as an ebook doesn't bother me that much. I have read books on ebooks as ebooks, and it's pretty convenient to read them like that. I think so. I don't have the need to have an actual book in my hand, so if it doesn't really matter to me either way. But also, it will be released in a limited version. As we said, it's released in paperback, but there will be a hardcover edition that's being released in 1,500 copies and sell for $40. And then there will be a rarer edition that will have 724 copies. I don't really know how they came to that number, but they are signed by the author, Stephen King. They will cost $75. And you have the rarest of the rarer, a lettered edition that's only released in 26 copies, and that one goes for $200. I don't know about you. Are you getting one of these?
I toyed with getting the hardcover, but the problem for me, and just for anybody who's hearing this for the first time, the limited and the deluxe editions are already sold out, so there's no way you're going to get those. And I haven't checked lately, but I wouldn't be surprised if the hardcovers are sold out now too. Yeah. I toyed with it, but at $50 and then another $20 for shipping, like that just kills it for me. I just can't justify spending that much money.
No,
I would love it because I like the map, but yeah.
The map is great.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know it, it's a map of the Joyland amusement park with all the places marked out that's mentioned in the book. So I wish I would have looked more at it when I read the book map. So that could be an advice to all of you when you read a book. Print out this map and have it
Oh, so
by
that
the
plays
side.
a very important part in the book, doesn't it?
No, you don't have to have it, but it's
Hmm.
interesting because when they say they walk from that place to that place, you can
Right.
see on the map how they walk and where things are compared to each other, and so.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have it to enjoy the book,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm really
Uh,
looking forward to it. Reviews I've read so far, I've only skimmed them because I don't want to know too much. It sounds like it's
yeah,
just my kind of story.
yeah, yeah. It's a good book.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm a bit surprised that they didn't do more with this map to
Mm.
promote the book. I actually did. I got some free time, so I took the map in Photoshop. I turned it around. So now it's from the back of the cover, so it's standing up. And I
Mhm.
laid it down and I arranged it a little bit different and printed it out and folded it and just took a photo of it and put it on Facebook and asked if everybody had their map of Joyland.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just for fun. And
Mhm.
people went crazy and wanted to have a map. And apparently they thought it was some promotion stuff. I had to I had to tell them that, oh, sorry, I just did this for fun.
Right.
But it could be marketing, could use it for marketing.
Mhm.
And for those who are interested, I have posted the covers for 5 international covers on my site, and you can see them and see what you like. One is clearly just a photo of a Las Vegas sign, the sign when you drive in Las Vegas, which says "Welcome to Las Vegas,"
Mhm.
and they have replaced Las Vegas and put Joyland in it. So that might not be the best cover, but you can check them out on my site, see what you think about them. So that one is coming up pretty soon. There's an excerpt released where you can read some part of it as well. All the links are on my site, so check that one out.
Alrighty, and in typical Stephen King fashion, it's the year of 2013 for Stephen King really kicks off in June, and it's a double header because also on June 4th is the long-awaited release of the Ghost Brothers of Darkland County in CD. So last couple of weeks, if you've tuned into Lilja's page at all, there's been links up for various tracks to listen to from some of the artists, and I have to say that I'm loving it so far, so I'm really looking forward to this. Going to cough up the money to get the deluxe edition, I believe, because I want to get the two disc CD DVD set, see some of the behind the scenes material. Still not really sure if they're going to be including some sort of a filmed version of any of the productions, but it doesn't look like it. So it'll be interesting to compare this to this version because it has big name stars like Elvis Costello, Roseanne Cash, Sheryl Crow, Miko Case, Taj Mahal, Ryan Bingham, Chris Christopherson, Matthew McConaughey, Samantha Mathis, and Meg Ryan. So it'll be interesting to compare this version to the stage versions. And as we all know, the Ghost Brothers is going back on tour as well this year. So yeah, this has been a long awaited release for me. So I'm really looking forward to listening to this.
Yeah, we've been talking about this a lot, and we've been waiting for it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So not being able to see it in person, this one will really be interesting to see and listen to. So I'm looking forward to this one as well, and I'm definitely getting the deluxe version of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what's next, Hans? Next date.
Next up is June 18, so just moving ahead a couple of weeks. So you better have big paycheck
Yeah.
lined up.
Yeah, or that bank picked out that you're going to rob.
Yep. On June 18, we're getting a book called Hard Listening. This is really a book about the band Stephen King was in called the Rock Bottom Reminders. Is it?
Remainders.
Remainders. Sorry. Yep. As you know, the tagline was they sing as well as Metallica writes books. So, but I think they sell themselves short. I actually have a CD they released and even a video from there. I think they can sing better than Metallica write a book. So, anyway, this book it's an ebook. From what I understand, there are, I think we mentioned this when we talked about ebooks in an earlier podcast, that the good thing about ebooks is that you can interact. You can add like film clips and sound and everything into the book, and I think they have done so here.
Mm-hmm.
From what I hear, you have email conversation and you have contest where you have 4 short stories and only one is written by Stephen King, and your job is to find out which of the 4. All this kind of stuff. So I think this will be an interesting read.
Yeah, it looks like a very interactive book, so it should be a lot of fun.
What I've heard is that I don't have the price right in front of me, but I've heard that people think it's a bit cheap for an ebook.
The price
Yeah,
is
steep for an ebook.
it's 219 pages, so and it's interactive.
Yeah.
$16.99. Geez, I don't know. I mean, there's quite a roll call of authors here too, so you have to keep in mind. But the main thing is all the money for this is going to a charity for one of the founding members of the band, Kathy Kamen Goldmark, who just passed away, and all the proceeds from this are going to help cover her medical bills. So
Yeah.
it's going to a good cause. It's not like but this is going towards the authors. So it's listed as an ebook, but it's a multimedia experience. So I'm okay with the price on this. I don't really have any problems with it.
No, I actually get it up now in a Swedish version of iTunes.
Oh.
There it's listed for 15 crowns.
Mm-hmm.
That's like $2.
Wow.
So maybe I should pre-order right now.
You still have to get the English version, though.
No, this is the English version.
Oh, okay. Wow.
This is it's not translated. It's the English version sold through the Swedish iTunes.
Interesting.
It says 15 crowns here.
Wow.
I might pre-order that one.
Alrighty.
Yep.
So as we kind of move from the book through the interactive media, now we end up on June 24th. With the premiere of the Under the Dome TV series, the CBS summer TV series that's being produced by Steven Spielberg. And again, if you've been to Lilja's sites, there's been numerous links to various trailers. If you're on Twitter, Dean Norris from Breaking Bad fame, who's playing Big Jim Rennie, has been tweeting pictures of himself with Stephen King. And one of his more recent pictures that he tweeted was, I believe it was 2 of his stunt doubles, because there was three of them together. So that was fun. Some of the trailers look very interesting. They've shown some very cool sneak peeks at some of the effect shots, that particular a big truck crashing into the wall. We've seen props of downed airplanes and cows cut in half and things like that. So this should be a lot of fun. And it's nice to have something new to watch during the summer months.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little bit worried about the special effects for this one and the fact that it was filmed so very quickly, because we haven't known about it that very long.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, so it's been done very quickly, but the more I see about it, the more I actually really like it. I think this has potential to be very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is that since this is a TV series in 13 episodes, so it's a real season, my problem is that they might try to expand it to a second season, and maybe we don't get a good ending because they want to keep it up, and then it won't be renewed and we're stuck with a crappy ending. But other than that, I think I have high hopes for this one.
Yep.
Okay, and next thing in the calendar is July 18th. On that night, Stephen King will have a conversation with Colin McEnroe. And you know more about this than I do, actually.
This is a talk that he's giving, which is kind of cool because in many ways Stephen King's been called the modern day Mark Twain or the modern day Charles Dickens. So this is taking place, as Hans mentioned, Thursday, July 18th. Stephen will be interviewed by Colin McEnroe, who is a American columnist and radio personality, and he has a self-titled radio show on Connecticut Public Radio. So, and again, this appearance is a charitable one. So everything that Stephen King is doing for this is to help with the preservation and maintenance of the Mark Twain Museum. And if you're in the area, I highly recommend that you check it out. I'm sure he'll be doing a reading from something. Who knows what? He's got so many books to choose from now.
Yeah, maybe the new Mr. Mercedes.
Maybe.
Being released next year.
Yeah.
Or Dr. Sleep.
Yeah. Maybe Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Also in July, to close out the month, another collector's edition book is being released by Cemetery Dance, and it's called The Dark Man. And this is a special release of the book that contains the Dark Man poem, which is a 100-word poem. And I don't know if they're illustrating almost every line. They must be if it's for 88 pages.
Yeah.
This book will be coming out in a couple of versions. There will be a trade hardcover for $25. Or a slipcase trade hardcover shrink wrap with a collectible bookmark. So for all you collectors out there, if you really like that poem and you're a big fan of Glenn Chadbourne's artwork, and I think he is a fantastic artist. He did a lot of the illustrations. Maybe he did them all for Secretary of the Dreams. Those are fantastic pieces of work. So if you're a collector, truck on over to Cemetery Dance and lay down your money for these limited editions of the Stephen King poem, The Dark Man.
Yeah. His illustrations are very detailed, so
yeah.
they're very special in that way.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the really exclusive editions have probably already sold out.
No doubt.
So if you were looking for those, you might have to check eBay. And this one is probably going to cost you, because the most exclusive one, with only 42 copies and signed by both King and Glenn, was $1,750 to begin with. So
Ouch.
on eBay they are probably going to cost even more.
Yeah. Unless you go to the Swedish eBay, and they might just be 20 crowns or something.
Yeah. That would be great. I'll buy one extra for you.
Oh, good, gee, thanks. So what's the next date?
Yeah, the next date is actually, and now we have to wait almost more than a month, because August we have nothing planned.
Oh, no.
Unless you follow Under the Dome, you will get a new episode each week, so you have that.
Yeah.
But if you want something new, you have to wait until September 24th, when this year's big Stephen King book is coming, and as you probably know, it's called Dr. Sleep. As you know, this is a sequel to The Shining. Well, we have both heard King read from it, and we have heard an excerpt from I think it was Wind in the Keyhole CD.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we know a lot about this one. There's going to be a limited of it, and well, this is just the book to buy this year if you haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
So are you looking forward to this one?
I'm actually looking, and I think I've mentioned this a couple times, I'm looking more forward to Joyland right now, because I think that's the one that's kind of been under the radar for a lot of people. Of course, you've already read it, so obviously you're waiting for.
I'm waiting for
Dr. Sleep,
Dr. Sleep, yeah.
I've heard really good things about Joyland, so I'm really looking forward to that quite a bit. And of course, I'm looking forward to Dr. Sleep as well. It's going to be interesting to see where Danny is 40 years later. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how much of The Shining is still there, if you know what I mean. If it's really is a sequel, or if it's just like they've taken Danny and we see where he is, and if you have to have read The Shining to read Dr. Sleep.
No, I doubt it. But with these things, I think you'll just get a little bit extra emotional impact from it if you do.
Yeah.
It sounds like Danny has a lot of the same problems that his dad did, so that should be interesting. Yeah, really looking forward to that. On the immediate horizon, I'm quite excited for Joyland, and that's very close now, so that's great. So, and then that takes us into the fall, and we don't have an exact air date yet, but of course, it will be the return of Season 4 of Haven, which has started filming in Nova Scotia right now as we speak. So they're hard at work on Season 4. It's going to be interesting to see how they pick up the pieces, since the show ended on quite a cliffhanger with, as you know, Audrey and Duke disappearing into the barn. One announcement that we did have, and you can check it out on Han's site, is that Colin Ferguson, who was on another sci-fi series, Eureka, will be returning to sci-fi to play a character named William, a handsome, mysterious stranger who has a secret agenda that leads him to Audrey. So we're kind of already getting the vibe that there was going to be a continuing love triangle between Duke, Nathan, and Audrey. Now it sounds like it's going to be a quadrangle, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
As you know from our reviews of the season, we were overall very happy with the mythology of the show. We were a little disappointed with some of the contrivances in the relationships, but the show has definitely improved with each season. So hopefully the clunky relationship stuff won't be as clunky this season.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the success for this season will depend on how well they will make what happened in the last episode of season 3, how they will explain that in a believable way.
Yeah.
If they can do that, I think they can make a good season. But if they just have some strange explanation that nobody believes, I think they are screwed.
Yeah, a lot of fans might go Annie Wilkes on them. We'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they've kind of painted themselves in a corner, right? So the car's gone over the cliff, and we don't want to have a replay of it and show it's somebody jumping out of the car before it actually went over the cliff that they didn't show us the first time. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Okay, so what's next?
And next up is October 18th, when we finally see the new version of Carrie. We have mentioned this, I believe, in every podcast. We might have missed it in one, but almost every podcast. Mm-hmm. So coming October 18th, we don't know what we're going to talk about anymore. But this will be very, very interesting. We've been teased with trailers and posters and photos and everything you can think about. So the hopes are high on this one. And as you know, when the hopes are high and it doesn't deliver, it will fall very flat. So hopefully they can deliver what they have gotten our hopes up to. So I'm a bit uncertain if they will, but I hope they will.
Yeah, there's definitely some niggling elements. The biggest one is, for a lot of us, is that Chloe Moretz is too pretty as Carrie even before the prom. But
yeah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, with today's modern technology, at least the special effects sequences should be really cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and still in October, and since that's Halloween month, it only makes sense that Mr. King keeps himself busy. But in October 24th, he will be visiting my native country of Canada. Unfortunately, it's in Toronto, which 2-3 years ago I would have been cool with it, but I've moved out almost to the West Coast, so this is out of my driving range for the season, and I think it's sold out in 20 minutes anyhow. But he's going to be doing a appearance in Toronto with one of his sons, Owen King. So this is aptly called the double feature, and it's a benefit for the PEN, which is an authors association in Canada, and he will be doing a presentation of his Dr. Sleep novel there, and Owen King will be doing a presentation for his double feature, which I have read and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So for all you lucky Canadians that live in the Toronto area and then bought tickets, you should be in for a great treat.
Yeah, it would be great to be able to go there because get two kings for the price of one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And
yep.
Not only are Canadians going to be happy with the tour news this year, but just recently announced, Hans.
Yeah, exactly. We Europeans get a piece of the slice. King is coming to Europe. He hasn't done that since 2006 when he was in London to promote Lizzie's story. Before that, I don't think even anybody remembered when he was in Europe last time. I know it was a big deal when he came there in 2006. Mm-hmm. So this time, what we know is that it will happen in November of this year. The dates and the cities have been decided, but the publisher needs to find venues in these towns where he can be. And the countries he's going to be visiting is France and Germany. So if you live anywhere in Europe, you should go there. It will be worth the travel. Mm-hmm. I went to London when he was there, and it was quite an experience. So I definitely think you should make a room in your calendar in November for doing this.
Absolutely.
I thought when he came to London in 2006, I was pretty sure that would be the last time he visited Europe. Mm-hmm. But obviously he's doing it again. Once again, I think this might be the last time. So take this chance to go and see him.
Absolutely. It's well worth it. I know in this day of instant media coverage that you can pretty well see any event that anybody does in a public venue, but there's still something that's special. There's that charge in the air that when you get when you see somebody in real person that you don't get through the media. I know that seeing King back in Toronto, that was one of the highlights of my life. I really enjoyed it, and he was just fantastic. He's a very relaxed public speaker at this stage of the game. He's quite the pro at it, so he's always got something interesting to talk about and say. So.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if there would be some signings as well. And I mean, who wouldn't have a book signed personally by Stephen King when he sits like just on the other side of the table from you? So it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So there you go, folks. That takes us up to December, and we don't have anything for December yet. That is our King calendar for the year. Hopefully we've caught everything. If there's something that we've missed that you know about, please let us know, and we'll add it to the calendar. Hans, you might want to stick up some sort of a King calendar on your website as well. So that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
As a quick reference for fans. Besides your map.
Yeah. Yep.
Alrighty. So that is the King calendar for 2013. Who knows what 2014 is going to bring. Be hard pressed to duplicate this.
Yeah. Probably Mr. Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
At the very least. Yep. And maybe some Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
We're so greedy.
Yeah, we are.
Feed me, feed me.
And now, we visit the King Crate and see what Miss Treasures, the Fluffy the Crate creature from Creepshow, has left for us to examine.
Hello, everyone. This is Lou, and with me is Bev, and we're going to be talking about another book that Bev did, and it's entitled 21st Century King. And Bev, why don't you tell us how and where that title came from?
I've been writing book reviews for over a decade now, and I have a book review site called Onyx Reviews, and I don't review just King. I review pretty much 80% of what I read. But Brian Freeman from Cemetery Dance got in touch with me last year, and he said, I really like your King reviews. What do you think about putting them together into a little chapbook for Cemetery Dance? And I thought, sure, that's fine. And so I went back and looked at them, and I had covered pretty much everything except for a couple of books on Onyx, and the ones that I hadn't done on Onyx I'd reviewed somewhere else. And so I pulled them all together, and I was looking for a concept, how,
Right.
this isn't just, the book reviews or something like that. And so I decided to cut off at 2000 to sort of consider 2000 as part of the 21st century, although there's philosophical arguments for and against that. Just because I wanted to include some of the things from 2000.
Right.
And as it worked out, it ended up that I had 21 books, and the sum total of all of the reviews was 21,000 words.
Wow.
That was not by any design. And so I thought 21st Century King, the numerologists who like everything about the number 19, this one was all about the number 21. I quite like the symmetry of that.
Yeah.
And so it starts with riding the bullet. And that's the other concept. It's post-accident.
Yes.
King's accident was in the middle of 1999. Riding the Bullet was the first thing that he published after the accident. It came out in 2000, and there's a story around that, the internet-only release of it. And so it starts with Riding the Bullet and goes all the way up through The Wind Through the Keyhole.
It's no exaggeration for my part, because I read pretty well almost everything that Stephen King has done, with the exception of Faithful, because I'm just not into baseball. And I've seen a lot of people review King, but your knowledge, not just in this book, but in the other books too, The Dark Tower Companion and Road to the Dark Tower, you've developed quite a long-term relationship in terms of relating King material to all walks of King fans, whether they be very rabid or just occasional purveyors of his work. And your analysis of his works always brings new ideas and concepts to me that I never would have thought of on my own. So I really appreciate the insights that you bring into these reviews.
I think by this point I could probably get a PhD in King stuff. I haven't sat down and figured out the sum total of all of the words I've written on the subject over the years, but if you combine the Cemetery Dance columns, I've been doing that since 2000.
Right.
And there's almost 30 of those, plus the two Dark Tower books, the Stephen King Companion, and all this other stuff. Quite a few trees have given their lives in the name of my writing on the subject.
Yeah. I think what jumps out at me right off the bat is Riding the Bullet is very interesting as being the first post-accident book. I would never really thought of that connection. So
well, the sort of the most subtle connection is that Bullet was the name of one of the two dogs that was in the van that hit him.
Right.
And so you can't think of it as a coincidence that he chose to use that as the name of the roller coaster, which was so significant in the life of the main character for Riding the Bullet.
Right.
And the novella itself is sort of about confronting death in a way.
Absolutely. It's a story that I've always really liked in the audiobook, and it's also turned out to be a fairly good film by Mick Garris as well, one of his better adaptations. Then the book that he was working on before the accident and finished after, of course, is what's become probably a pretty go-to reference manual for a lot of writers, is his On Writing book, and I really enjoyed your review of that as well.
Even writers who don't particularly like King's books have looked at this book as being an important how-to. And I think one of the reasons people connect with it is it's not just a writing book. It's, he spends a good chunk of it laying out his CV to say, this is my life experience, this is why I am qualified to talk on this subject. And it's probably the closest thing to an autobiography that we'll see from him.
Yes, and I think probably over the last couple of years, it's the one I've reread the most. I just find it a very, uplifting, not just in terms of what he's gone through in his life, but just this general joy of storytelling, which is something that he does refer to quite a bit in the Dark Tower series, all the way through as well, with Roland loving stories. And you can just tell that the man just loves a good loves either to tell or to read a good story.
Yes, I've written somewhere recently. Can't remember if I did it in. Yeah, I did it in the Dark Tower Companion about stories.
Hmm.
Like the section called "Some Stories Last Forever," and
Right.
it's about how storytelling. It's sort of the metaphysical, metastructural concept, stories within stories. How storytelling becomes important to the stories themselves.
Yep. And that was no more evident than in Wind Through the Keyhole, which is a story within a story within a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really love the construction of that book.
Yeah, and Roland is always supposedly a man of few words, except he tells a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Right from the very beginning. I mean, as he and Jake walk across the desert, he's telling Jake all these stories of his childhood. And
Hmm.
he hardly shuts up, but in general, he seems to be a pretty tight-lipped guy, but he just loves telling stories.
Yeah, definitely. How about out of these reviews, and let's take out the Dark Tower books, which of these reviews for which book here did you enjoy the most?
I would say that I found a lot to write about 11/22/63.
Hmm.
It's a different kind of book for King,
Yeah.
and it's an experiment that he's not sure that he would ever do again,
Hmm.
because he said having to hew to historical accuracy
Right.
was a challenge
Yeah.
because he likes to make things up. But he sort of had these linchpin events in history that he had to follow along with.
Right.
And he had these real life characters who did real life things who become part of the story.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see how he could walk that narrow path to weave a story among all of that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting exercise for King because he's gotten to a point in his career where he pretty well calls his own shots. So from a writing perspective, there's really no restraints on what he wants to write, and that's very liberating. Some might argue it's too liberating, but I think 11/22/63, because of the fact that he had to have some sort of limiting factor, I think that it's one of his more powerful books in the last 10 or so years that he's worked on.
It's a book with a history too.
Hmm.
He had this idea when he was a school teacher back in the 70s,
Yeah.
and he sort of batted it around with his fellow teachers on one of the anniversaries of the assassination, and they sort of talked about what do you think would have happened if he'd lived. But at the time he didn't have the resources or the luxury to write a book like this.
Right.
I mean, now he can go and spend a week or two in Dallas and get the red carpet treatment at the book conservatory and see the things that the general public isn't always allowed in to see, and
Hmm.
things that he couldn't have done 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but then it's clear that the idea stayed with him.
Yeah.
I look at the Dead Zone as sort of the mirror image of this,
Hmm.
where instead of going to the past to change the present, there's somebody who sees a political candidate, what he might do in the future,
Right.
and his determination to do something to prevent that future timeline, which hasn't yet happened, from taking place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Very cool.
in the Dark Tower books, Eddie and Father Callan have this whole conversation, which
Hmm.
lays out the whole plot of 11/22/63. It's all there in about 2 paragraphs.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens if you make a change and it doesn't make things better?
Hmm. And again, and this is consistent throughout his work, is he peoples it with characters that you really come to care about, and the way he handles the main love story is just it's beautiful, but it's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful at the same time.
And there's a bit of a feel of that to Joyland too.
Okay. Cool.
There are potential love stories. I mean, the main character has gone off to work at a carnival for the summer because he and his girlfriend are at a crossroads in their relationship.
Hmm.
And he's quite young and immature, and this is his coming of age story.
Okay.
And so he meets all these other people of his own generation, and there are potential love interests, and then there's a different kind of relationship that evolves in the second half of the book that really makes him come into his own. It's in a way it's a Green Mile story because it's told
Oh.
from the point of view of the main character when he's in his 60s looking back on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's quite a charming story. It's a bit of a tearjerker,
Okay. Well,
but it's also a whodunit and a murder mystery. It's got all of those elements too.
okay. Well, you really got me excited for that one. Thank goodness it's June is almost here.
And it's got much more resolution than the Colorado Kid did.
Oh, okay, that's good. I guess the final thing, just looking through the index here at the stories, it's pretty amazing how he can write, about the same themes and that, but the stories themselves are so different from one another. We've got more like the grade B horror stuff like in Cell. There's much more of the fantastical with Duma McKee. He's got short story collections in here. The Colorado Kid is an interesting exercise in an unfinished story. It's just, when you look at it like this, it really encapsulates how varied his career is. It's very
hard
impressive.
it's hard to think of anybody else who's got sort of the scope and the stamina
Yeah.
and the sort of endless creative fountain
Yeah.
that he could just keep going back to and back to. On his website, they've got this thing up saying Stephen doesn't accept any story ideas, and I think there should be a footnote that says he doesn't need them.
Yeah.
He's got more than he knows what to do with it as it is.
Yeah.
Because I think he probably has ideas that will keep him going as long as he needs them.
Yeah, I think one of the more interesting comments he's made is that he never writes down ideas. He said if an idea is good enough, it'll stick with him. And I know a lot of writers that are not at his level of output or fame or stature, they're all writing down ideas. But I think that's more to do with the function that a lot of them have other jobs and careers that will crowd that stuff out, whereas he can focus pretty well solely on coming up.
I honestly think he has a different relationship to storytelling than many writers do.
Mm-hmm.
These stories just bubble up within him.
All right.
And, in the Stephen King Illustrated Companion, I talk about the story of how he wrote The Green Mile. And that one came up just every night when he'd go to bed, he'd tell himself the story. And he'd get a little bit further each night as he was trying to get to sleep until he'd get to the point where he was ready to sit down and write it. And my mind certainly doesn't work that way. I might come up with an idea or a scene or something like that, but to sort of tell yourself stories, to consciously tell yourself stories,
Mm-hmm.
that's to me seems pretty unique and pretty incredible. He'd be a great guy to have around the campfire because I think he could just come up with stuff,
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, he's got the ideas, but for me, and I think this is the harder part of writing from my feeble attempts at it. It's populating those stories with interesting characters, which he seems to do effortlessly.
And that's really, to me, the heart of everything that he does.
Yeah.
If he decided to write romance novels, I would still read them because I know that his characters would be worth
spending time with.
Visiting.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, so this book was released in 2012, I believe.
Yes.
And it's available off the Cemetery Dance website.
Correct.
And it's entitled 21st Century King by Bev Vincent. It has 21 reviews?
21 reviews, 21,000 words.
Yep. And plus an introduction. And it's very insightful reviews about these stories, or books, I should say. And it also covers some anthologies such as Full Dark No Stars and Just After Sunset, as well as Blaze, which he wrote originally as Richard Bachman. And it's just, again, it just proves that Bev is very insightful when it comes to Stephen King. I really enjoyed reading these reviews almost as much as the books themselves, so I can't really think of any higher compliment than that.
Thanks very much.
But I'm just looking really forward to your reviews, like for Joyland and Dr. Sleep, coming out this year. So hopefully at some point all the other stuff that King's done since he printed this will be collected in another volume. So we look forward to that.
So my review of Joyland will be in the next issue of Cemetery Dance.
Okay.
And
great.
I also have an interview with Charles Ardai, who's the publisher of Hard Case Crime.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. And what issue will that be? Do you know? Is that 60?
70, I think.
70? Wow.
70, yeah.
Okay. So there you go, folks. Keep an eye out for the next issue of Cemetery Dance Well if you want to get a review of Joyland. And Bev, I want to thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Look forward to reading further thoughts from Bev on Stephen King. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
And that was it for this podcast. Please let us know what you think about it, and if you have any comments about the stuff that's coming out this year or anything said by Bev in the interview. For next time, we once again will have Bev here as a guest that time we will talk to him about his book, The Dark Tower Companion. So don't miss that. But until then,
Stay safe, but stay scared.